It's that uncomfortable in-between space of you're no longer who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming.
Hello, you are listening to the Late Bloomer Living podcast, where we are reimagining and redefining what it means to be in midlife, where we are gathering energy, momentum, and excitement for our next chapter via candid conversations with other midlifers about their own pivots, pitfalls, and triumphs. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your host, and I'm so happy you're here. Imagine this. You've had a successful, fulfilling career for almost 20 years when you suddenly realize you are no longer fulfilled by your work. What do you do when that thing you always loved to do isn't doing it for you anymore? Do you stay with that job because you feel like you should? Do you keep going because you have responsibilities and it's the safe thing to do? Do you feel ashamed of yourself for feeling the way you feel? Do you panic? Do you blame yourself? Do you wonder, what's wrong with me? If you find yourself in that situation right now, I know it can feel like your world is ending. You might suddenly feel like you don't recognize yourself and think you're going through a midlife crisis. But I want you to consider for a minute the possibility that there's nothing wrong with you, that your discomfort and pain is simply an indication that you're ready for something new. You're ready for a new adventure. My guest today is Dara Goldberg. Dara was founding partner and vice president of a management consulting firm that worked mainly with nonprofits and philanthropies to help them increase their funding base and develop growth strategies. She loved her work until she didn't. After some soul searching, she eventually found the courage to walk away and is currently on the verge of something big. I can't wait for you to hear her story. So without further ado, here's Dara Goldberg. Hey, Dara, thank you for being here with me today.
It's great to be here.
I always like to say how I met people, and you and I met in Clubhouse, which seems to be where I meet everybody these days. We were already talking about how amazingly powerful it is for connecting with people.
It truly is. I mean, it feels human.
Yeah.
And it shows you how just a picture and a voice, can really touch you and connect.
Yeah.
People.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to get back to some Clubhouse stuff as we talk, because it's been such a huge part of your journey. But I'm going to rewind a little bit, or have you rewind and give us a little bit of the background that started you on your journey. You're doing Lovin Midlife. You've got this big launch coming up right now. And before that, though, what were you doing?
It's a question I actually love answering, but I wouldn't have said that 15 years ago. I was in management consulting for the first 20 years of my career, and I absolutely loved it. It was a small company that I'd helped found with two other partners, and I loved the work. I loved my colleagues, everything about it. And then what felt like out of the blue, when I hit 42, somehow it wasn't working anymore. Like I stopped being invested in the work. So I was immediately saying, Dara, what's wrong with you? Don't you have a more, work ethic anymore? I wasn't being fulfilled by the work. And I went to that place that I think so many women do, which is I blamed myself. I did what I call shoulding. I should have known better. I should have done something differently. And I also felt like I needed to keep it on the down low because it was a good job. It was a nice living. Everything was fine, but I wasn't. And then I realized that and it wasn't on my own. There was a lot of self-reflection, but it was absolutely through professional help. That it wasn't what society wants or calls a midlife crisis. It was not a breakdown in the way society, tells us that it is. What was happening and what happens to so many, if not most of us women in midlife, is I was growing and changing, and the bubbling up from within was what had fulfilled me in a profound way wasn't anymore. And so that, that carnal need for a sense of purpose and meaning was not being fulfilled by this career anymore. And when that was happening, it like caused all these emotions, right? So feeling lost and anxious and truly ashamed or upset with myself. And what I realized, like, if you can, those emotions, even just feeling lost, that's the data that is telling you you're in a growth process.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
it's that uncomfortable, and I don't know if I imagine it resonates with you based on our conversation before we started recording, but it's that uncomfortable in-between space of you're no longer who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming.
Yes. Oh, I so 100, and if you could do 200%. Yeah, absolutely. It started happening for me in my mid 30s, when my dream, everything I ever wanted to do, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to do theater. I wanted to, and I put all my energy and everything I had into that for many years and very happily. And sometime in my 30s, mid 30s, it started being less fulfilling. And I started questioning that path and why was I doing it? And I was in the woods of that discomfort for a good 5 years before I found photography as a new outlet.
Love it.
It's just incredible. But 5 years of like, who am I and what am I going to be when I grow up, and of feeling really lost. So yeah, I was lost for years.
I think that's part of, we're taught from such an early age that you grow and you hit milestones when you're a kid, right? And then when you're a teenager, and then in our 20s and into our early 30s. And then somehow society's given us this message that growth stops, as you get into your late 30s. And I think that's part of what causes us to, look inward and say, what's wrong with us? When it's actually a beautiful thing that we grow forever, right?
Yeah.
We don't arrive, we just keep going. But it is that, so the idea that what fulfills us shifts isn't like, that makes sense, is what I think I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But
And I think you see a lot of people end up seeing it as failure,
yeah,
instead of a natural process of evolution.
exactly. And like you described, we start beating ourselves up as opposed to, and I did that too. But as I look back, like, what if I was able to be curious, but not critical, right? And almost be able to say, okay, you're hitting a growth spurt, a midlife growth spurt, not a midlife crisis. So I think part of it is, if we can start changing the vocabulary, that will at least take some of the stigma off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, if we could change the way we look at midlife, and I've been on this little midlife exploration, trying to stay curious journey since I was about 48. That's when, because I found photography, kind of, it saved me for a while. And then I hit like another slump around, 47, 48, where really my whole 40s were, I was a little bit of a hot mess, just with the way I talked to myself. And, and when I was 48, had this kind of, did a lot of self-work, and thought, that's when I got curious, and that's when I got hopeful. And even so I'm 53 now. Even so, I still beat myself up on the days when I'm feeling like I'm not doing as much as I want to do, or getting to where I think I want to go as fast as I want to get there. And, it's hard to, it's hard to get rid of those patterns.
I think it is. And I also think, it's giving yourself permission to have them, as opposed to adding to the uncomfortable thought by either getting anxious about it or being upset with yourself for having those thoughts, right?
Right.
I mean, I was
boy, there's an endless loop, right?
Yeah.
Whoa, I feel so bad. Why do I feel so bad? Things aren't that bad. I should feel better.
I should not feel this way. I always say that to my kids. Don't add to the problem by being upset with yourself for being upset. Right. But I also think so much of it, and we talk about this in a clubhouse room I run, about the limiting beliefs we have, not just around aging, but around ourselves as we get older. And even things like having, a memory slip. I will, left to my own, volition, I would just say, oh, geez, I'm losing my memory, or like words like I'm losing it.
Right. But, I just had a senior moment.
Yes.
Right. I was using that in my 40s. I'm like, come on, really? Right. You're having a senior moment in your 40s.
Well, and, like laugh rather than, like I do try now to say, my memory is still great. It may not be what it was in my 20s, right? And it's not going to be. Or
maybe it's just that we have more in there.
Yes.
It's like an overfilled container that's overflowing with information.
I love that.
You've got a lifetime's worth of memories that are in there competing for attention to bubble up to the top, right?
Right. Our wisdom is overflowing.
Right. Oh, I love
How
that.
How could we possibly remember what we were about to say? Right.
Or the word for bed, or
right. Oh gosh. Oh, the word finding. Oh my goodness.
Hilarious. Oh
but
my
if
goodness.
we can laugh, yeah.
How did you? So when did you come to the realization? You got there. You were, and you started to beat yourself up. And what happened to clue you into the shift where you're living now?
Part of it was I had to get mad, I had to say, wait a minute, this is not a bad thing. Like, this is not me falling apart. And again, I had help to recognize that, but it was realizing, and it was so powerful, I can't tell you, realizing I have a choice. Like, this is a choice to embrace the fact that I'm going through a growth and a change process, or try to ignore it and have it continue to just bubble up and affect my life, or keep it on the down low, which I feel we're kind of taught we're supposed to do. And I started talking about it and started, I really made the decision that, one, this is not something I should keep on the down low and do on my own, to figure it out. Two, there's so much about how I'm feeling that society has, embedded in me. And three, isn't it about me figuring out what will fulfill me? like it's a loss in some ways, right? Whenever we go through a transition of letting go of what did, but finding what will. And so I really, again, finding some comfort in the ambiguity of, feeling lost. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm thinking of it's that so I'm having trouble pulling the words, but it's that idea of so you were resisting it,
Yeah.
right? And there's that saying that what you resist persists. And
Right.
I can't tell you. I mean, I've heard that for so long. And I was like, what does that even like? What do you mean? What I resist persists? How? How does that work? Well, how it works is that your brain recognizes what you focus on.
Yeah.
You train your brain. It's like if you know somebody who drives a blue Honda Civic, suddenly you're going to see blue Honda Civics all over the road.
That's a great example. Yeah.
And I forget what it's called. It's like it's a reticular brain. I can't come up with it right now, but your brain is trained to do that. So your brain wants to create these shortcuts for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so if you're focusing on what you want to get rid of, quit, you don't want that to be a part of your life anymore. If you keep focusing on that stuff that feels that it's just going to keep showing up.
Totally.
And then you're going to be convinced that you were right all along.
Right. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the other piece that I should mention is there's so much shame involved, right? Like that feeling of, and that's where I, came up with the term shed the shoulds, because when you feel a level of, I shouldn't feel this way, or, I should have known, any of those shoulds keeps you completely stuck. I mean, just completely stuck, as opposed to words like, what if this is natural? What if it's really about how I choose to proceed forward, and I've always been fascinated with language and how it affects, like how we talk to ourselves totally affects our thinking and all that. So I did do something that a lot of people, friends, family thought was kind of crazy, which is I pivoted and left my company. And that was really hard. And there was like guilt involved, but it was the best thing I could have done, because I needed to figure out what was going to give me purpose and, be kind of a next career. And I knew after having this experience that there was some answer to that question in what I had gone through. And so helping other women understand and see the beauty in midlife and these growth spurts was so important to me. And also what kind of bubbled up in a good way, I think, is this strong feeling that it's time to kick the misconceptions and stereotypes to the curb. Like it just is. And there are so many women doing amazing things to help with this. And I decided.
Isn't that exciting?
Yes, it's so exciting.
When I started on this path, I guess because like you, I felt the need to create the podcast to change the dialogue, right? And when I started it, I looked for other podcasts that were doing the same thing, and maybe I just wasn't good at searching. But since I started, because there's a lot actually, and what I've found since doing that and since getting into Clubhouse is that there's a lot of people who are working to change this narrative right now, and that just thrills me and makes me so stinking happy. I can't even stand it.
It's amazing. And people are responding. Like in the Clubhouse rooms I run, or the ones you run, like, or any women in midlife, it's incredible the sense of connection, of community, of power, of sharing our voices. And we need to get them, shared far and wide, right? And loud and clear. And I truly see that we are making a difference. Like, we are using our purchasing power or capacity to try to get a lot of these anti-aging, companies to, I don't want to overstate it, but to shame them, I'll put it in quotes, into, aging is a fine thing, and I'll just rant one more second, is
Please.
if you look up the word aging, like what I keyed in, I just Googled best definition of aging. And what came up was it's the decline of your physical and mental capacities. And here's the thing, that is true in and of itself, right? Like, we do, as we age, things decline. That doesn't even scratch the surface of our experience, right?
No, and it's a one-sided look at it.
Right.
There's a dualistic look at that is completely flipped on the negative side.
Absolutely.
That really what aging is that you've been around a long time.
Right.
So if you look at it, there's an endurance, there's a patina that comes with age, right?
That's a great word. Yep.
Instead of a decline, like our bodies, depending on how much you use it, right? It's like, I really do believe use it or lose it with it. Yeah. And that you can slow down the decline of your mind and your body. And it does come with age. It's not that that's not true, but it's just so one-sided.
Right. It's binary. And
yes, what I for that word.
What I feel like it misses is, and therefore, like, the biases or misconceptions and all that, I feel like society just latched on to that very limited definition. And from that came these misconceptions, in this case about women in midlife and beyond. And what that definition does is miss the depth and the richness of getting older, right? And like, I love how you use the word patina, because we are coming into our own in the most profound way, right? And the growth, the pride we feel, how relationships are deeper and richer in so many ways, the sense that we're defining ourselves on our own terms. I could go on forever. And you and I have both been in midlife at times where we weren't feeling that, but the totality of it is so much richer than what society has allowed. Yeah. And I feel that's kind of the journey. And that's what got me on this journey.
I love it. So how long ago did you leave the management consulting?
It was 2012. And then for a while I did executive coaching with women, because that was kind of a natural segue from my company to doing it individually. And then I coached, in particular, women with an emptying or empty nest, because that's such a major transitional period. And that kind of morphed me into, leaving coaching and really trying to build what I am calling a movement, and joining hands with all these other women who are doing stuff similar to me, and also every other woman, including young women, to try to create lasting change, and to walk away feeling like, we want to stop 15-year-old girls from, there was an article about a 15-year-old girl saying, I'm already doing Botox, and I already can't stand my wrinkles. Like
Oh my
that
gosh.
epitomizes the problem, doesn't it?
Wow, that just
I know.
crushes my heart to hear that. Yeah. Ah. Wrinkles at 15.
I don't even know. I mean,
What wrinkles do you have at 15 other than like maybe
right.
laugh lines? I had those really early on.
Right.
But I
They're
like
laugh
those.
lines, right? Or lifelines, right?
Right? Oh my goodness.
I know.
Wow.
So.
And the aging and the assumptions about age, they're there for men too.
Definitely.
I just think it kicks in a little bit earlier for women. That you start to, yeah, I think it just starts a little earlier. And we have that demarcation, that line in the sand that comes with menopause.
Absolutely.
And so there's this physical underline to it's like a mark in the sand, right? Or
it's a life experience. I mean, it's a dramatic change in
right.
and I think that's, also something where not just society, but like the healthcare community in some ways looks at menopause as a physical or a health experience or a health issue with symptoms. And my feeling, and I think you'll agree, it's a life experience. It affects every facet of who we are, right? And in so many different ways. And I feel like it's misunderstood in that way. Like, take a pill and hopefully you'll feel better. There's so much to it.
I wonder what would happen if we looked at it as like, you were talking earlier about those milestones that you have when you're young, right? Every new year of school is a milestone when you're a kid, and and then you graduate, and then maybe you go to college, maybe you get married, or you start your first job. Those are all milestones, right? And you get to midlife, and the milestones, if you're a parent, maybe you've got the milestone of the empty nest. But here we are. And I almost feel lucky as a woman to have the milestone of menopause in a way that I think men miss out on that milestone in a way that they don't have, because it's here, it's in our body. It's such, it can be a liberation.
Right.
We could look at it in a whole other way. I mean, yeah, it comes with hot flashes and weight gain and what am I trying to say? You can't sleep.
Right.
Give me the word, Dara.
Oh my gosh.
What's the word, Dara?
I know. Wow. I'm with you.
But it's so it comes with laughing. All the stuff, right?
Yeah.
But like, what if we look at it as it's part of the journey, and and how great is it to have it and mark that passing?
Totally. And you made me also think about it. We have milestones in midlife. We just don't think about them.
Maybe we don't
and recognize them because I think a huge milestone is coming into our own and having those moments. And it happens at different age numbers for all of us.
Right.
But that sense of feeling at home in our bodies, or the sense that, it's a choice whether or not who we want to be. And we focus, I think, so much more, or we have the capacity to, in our 20s and early 30s, it's what are we? Like, what's our career? What's our role? What's our responsibilities? And as we're in midlife, it becomes so much more about who we are and who we want to be.
Right.
And
who is underneath all that, and like starting to own and get familiar with it. And there's this great chance that we have to really recognize who's in there, who's been in there all these years.
And that's a milestone. And being giving to ourselves in ways we never have, that's a milestone, and finding a sense of choice in ways we didn't feel things were choices, that's a major milestone. It's just we don't label them that way, or view them, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea. I love that idea.
I know. I feel like we should take that on the road.
Right. So you started coaching, and then you decided to start this movement. Now, did you, I know that Clubhouse has been a huge part of your journey, and that's where you've started forming community, right? Is that where the idea for shifting from coaching to creating a movement started?
I'm so glad you asked, because the absolute answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
The hunger, the energy, the power of bringing women together and talking about, like one topic, it's women of all ages talking about aging and an anti-aging culture. Another was a room that really was the shift. I think the really triggered it was, the topic was, what do you love about being a woman in midlife? And I've done that topic no less than 10 times,
You could go
weekly.
on and on, right? And you get new people in and get a new
Yeah.
perspective, or something new might happen for somebody and they've got a whole new perspective on it. Has that happened?
Oh, it's
Revisiting it?
incredible. The rooms are packed. And, on Clubhouse, for those who don't, you can raise your hand and come up and speak, right? Once you're in the room. It's the number of women who want to come up and share is just incredible. It truly, and that made me realize we are, as one woman said, I have something to say. And she was adamant that she's not going to be quiet about all that there is to love about midlife, because people need to hear it. And part of the way we all can help change this is talk about what you love. Talk about it to your friends, talk about it to your family till they're blue in the face. Talk about it with the person behind you at the grocery store. Like, because we know,
I
and
love that
we're the
idea. Talk about
ones.
what you love. Wow,
Yeah.
right? Oh my goodness. And then, if it's like that blue Honda, what's
Yeah.
going to happen? More and more
That's
of the stuff you
great.
love is going to keep showing up,
That
right?
is so great. I
You'll be
love the
spread.
comparison.
It's like you're going to be spreading little love bombs around, and creating um thoughts around aging that are positive for other people.
And grab every young woman on the street that you can and tell them what you love about midlife.
Right. Right.
Because that's where we really have to, share our voices.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, so you get into Clubhouse, you find this community, you decide you're on a mission, you're creating a movement. And now what?
And now so I'm still going to continue with Clubhouse. I really want to move beyond Clubhouse and have, I won't use the word train, but support and help women become kind of Lovin Midlife ambassadors, where all over the world, in societies where, aging isn't this welcomed, revered thing. I want us to do I think there's discrete things we can all be doing, to include, most importantly, sharing far and wide what we were talking about, what you love about getting older. But we can change some of the stigmatized vocabulary. We can, really control. I mean, we do have incredible purchasing power. Whether we have a lot of money or very little money, we still collectively have that power. So we can help drive, who these companies market to and how they market. I think there's so many like concrete things we can do. And what I want to do with this movement is invite every single woman, I can in midlife in, and equip us all with things we can do. And I also think, I haven't mentioned this, but it's really important, is for women who are not loving midlife, and part of the movement is, it's really important to be with your people, your tribe of midlife women, and see what they love about it. Let us support you. And I'm a full proponent of personal coaches. So part of the movement, I have a cohort of women who I met on Clubhouse who are incredible coaches. And they're available through the movement for women who are feeling lost.
And I tell you, as many people as I've talked to in the past year on this podcast, a lot of people that have been through a change or have gotten through that stuck and lost period.
Mm-hmm.
I got to believe it's around 90 to 95% of the people I've talked to a coach at some point.
Yeah.
That they didn't get through it on their own.
Right. And there's no reason to.
There is no reason to. And I have been a DIY, do it myself, independent kind of person for so long. And I'm starting to realize how much I've been in my own way in trying to feel like I need to do things by myself.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I've had that so many times.
Yeah.
And that's another thing in midlife where I've let go of that control. Like, it's okay to need people and to not want to do it all alone. That's part of being a we, right?
Yeah. And two, people love to help.
Yeah.
People love, I mean,
Yep.
You're not just taking when you ask for help. You're giving somebody else the chance to contribute.
Absolutely.
And boy, I have to remember that. Because that's a stumbling block for me. For
me
real.
too. I mean, building this movement, I've met these women who totally want to help, and even call themselves my Lovin Midlife team. And it's so hard. Like I keep saying, but I don't want to, take advantage of you, or what can I give back? Let me guide you on your, work or whatever. But it makes them feel good. And I mean, but I think that's something, a lot of us struggle with, but it's kind of that, sense of, okay, this works. I need people need me, it's a level playing field.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back to one little thing that you said, because I actually had it in my notes from when we talked at some point, that you, part of your journey was getting angry, and you mentioned it briefly for a second, but tell me about that anger.
Yeah.
What was the source of the anger?
I think, and I've never been someone who's good at getting angry, but there was this sense, I mean, it kind of just was part of the bubble up from within, where it was like, no, I'm not going to go small and, into a ball and keep quiet about how I'm feeling or what I'm going through. I matter, and it was that sensation of, I'm letting society, or my concept of what I should be and how I should feel, and my limiting beliefs define me and keep me small and keep me feeling like I'm falling apart. But there was something that didn't believe that. And that's where the work really is, and is so hard, which is digging beneath those feelings and realizing, what was really going on. And that's when I got really angry, because, and that's where the pivot felt even more right, because it was so, I wasn't mad at myself anymore. I was kind of mad outwardly. And I don't mean specifically in anybody, obviously, but this was telling me something that was, I don't know, I felt lied to for, I mean, that's an overstatement or overstating it, but that I had fallen victim to something I didn't create. And I does that make sense?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. It's the story of aging that it's about, you grow up, you leave home, you go to work, maybe you get married, maybe you have kids, but eventually the time goes by, they leave or you retire, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And it's just a decline. It's like you looked it up in the dictionary, and the definition was decline. And it's a story. It's all it is.
Yeah.
And we can change that story.
Yes.
But that's going to require vigilance and choice
and courage.
Right. And if we change the story for ourselves, what's possible, like you said, to talk to that 20-year-old woman coming up behind you or your kids, what's possible for them as they look and see what you're doing as you age and see what's possible for them as they age?
Right.
What could be possible if we change that story?
I mean, imagine the day, and I truly, it might not be in our lifetime, but I want us to get there, when a 20-something says, I can't wait to be a proud woman in midlife. Like, I think it's something to be proud of, and I want them to know, don't dread it. It's something to be proud of.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And sometimes, getting angry about something is the first step towards, like, notice what you're angry about, right? Notice what makes you angry, because there's something there.
Right.
Notice what makes you sad, because there's something there for you that you can step into that may be your purpose.
Right. And that's where we were talking about, treat the emotions as information, as data. They're not the answer. They're the data that is saying there's something more here, and there's something that's dying to come out.
Yeah. And get curious about it.
Yeah.
And then where can you go from there? Woo!
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Oh, me too. This is such a great conversation. I love this.
And look at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, where does it go?
I love it.
I'm so excited for you. So you've got a big launch coming up, right?
I do. It's October 18th to 22nd, and we're doing a week to kick off the Lovin Midlife movement. We're doing a week of, there's some free giveaways the minute you sign up. And it's we're doing a ton of Clubhouse rooms. We're going to be on Instagram. And it's just going to be an incredible celebration of having us have the voice and make the change. And it's all on my website, Lovin without the G, midlife.com.
All right. So awesome. And I will have that in the show notes. And cool. Is there anything else that you want to say before we go, or anywhere else people can find you? You're on Instagram, right? Is it?
I am. It's both Instagram and Clubhouse. My handle is at Dara Does Midlife.
Love it. I love that.
Not surprising, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing this podcast. Like, I think this is exactly what women need and deserve. I love that you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. I love doing it. It's been a real growth experience for me to do it. And I especially love it because of the relationships that I've made in the year plus that I've been doing it. It's been mind blowing to make connections with people on this level, and to meet you, and just, and I just get excited that I'm not alone on this path. We aren't alone. None of us are alone.
Exactly.
Here we are together, folks.
Yeah.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. I'd love to see us rename the phenomenon called the midlife crisis. I mean, words and language are so important. What do you think might happen if we use different language to talk about it? Doesn't it sound more exciting to call it a midlife awakening or a midlife transformation? I wonder what could be possible if we stopped thinking of life being all downhill after we turn 40 or 50. What if we looked at it as an opportunity to get in touch with who we are deep down right now and how we might be able to grow from here? What if we looked at it as a time of natural evolution, a renewal period filled with possibilities? I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dara. I sure did. It thrills me to know that there are people like her on this midlife journey with me, people who feel like they're just getting started. It is truly the beginning of a movement that I hope you'll join us on. Let's change the way we talk about getting older. Try to pay attention to the words you use as you go through your day. Notice when you say something that smacks of ageism against yourself or others. Notice when you say things like, "I'm so old," or "I look so old." Even watch out for backhanded compliments like, "You look good for your age." Let's cheer each other on as we take on new challenges and adventures. If you want to know more about Dara and join in the movement, you'll find everything you need in the show notes. You can just go to latebloomerliving.com/podcast and look for episode 68. And hey, you can help grow this movement by spreading the word about this podcast. If you got something valuable out of this conversation, please take a moment to share this podcast episode with someone you think could use a boost right now. If you're listening in a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, just take a second to look for the share button and please leave a review while you're thinking about it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week. Stay safe and well. Talk soon.